Welcome back to the program. Joshtradamus strikes once again. I said the other day that the Supreme Court has zero, that's right, zero jurisdiction when it comes to anything having to do with El Salvador. So this Abrigo, whatever the hell this guy's name is, doesn't matter anyway, he's going to stay there. And just like Bukele said today, it would be preposterous for him to smuggle an illegal alien from El Salvador back into the United States. So it just goes to show you that the Supreme Court's 9-0 decision was garbage. It meant nothing. And quite frankly, all of these judges and these lower court judges cannot stop President Trump. They cannot stop him with an injunction. And quite frankly, he can ignore them because they are not within the confines of what is allowed. They are going into the executive branch and they are trying to dictate immigration policy from the executive branch. That can't happen. So President Trump and his cabinet are basically blowing off these judges, which is what they should do, and they should continue to get these people out of the country, which again, that is exactly what they are doing. So once again, I was correct when I said they don't have any jurisdiction and he is not coming back to the United States. And I don't care what these district courts do. I don't care what the Supreme Court does. They are powerless to stop this. Okay? Now, let's move on. So Congressman Paul Gosar, who in my opinion is one of the best members of Congress and of course wrote the forward to Preserving Liberty, as you can see right there. Well, he has wrote something that we have been talking about for a while. And we've been talking about the Rescission Act, which you can take money that hasn't been spent or allocated, and you can request that back. The president, the executive, can request that. He actually did it already a couple of weeks ago. But now Paul Gosar has wrote an op-ed, and here is what he is saying. And I love it. I think it's great. It says, time for Congress to claw back unspent COVID-19 emergency funds. FEMA overspent during the pandemic $104 billion. Okay? Taxpayer-funded money right there. And this was, again, according to openthebooks.com. So Paul Gosar says this, with the House and Senate now aligned on a budget reconciliation framework, Congress will soon return to Washington, D.C. to begin the process of identifying at least $1.5 trillion in wasteful federal spending necessary to deliver permanent tax relief for all Americans and enacting President Trump's America First agenda. Congress need not look too far to find these types of savings. A good place to start would be by reviewing and terminating many of the 40 active national emergency declarations dating as far back as the Carter administration. Imagine that. There are 40 national declarations still in place since the 70s. Wow. Washington really doesn't do much, do they? They just continue to waste money. These emergency declarations, as established by the National Emergencies Act, were made by presidents during times of crisis such as hurricanes, wars, or pandemics. These declarations provide presidents the flexibility to respond quickly and effectively to events that require immediate attention, such as the ability to direct funds from congressionally approved programs to address any type of emergency. Here's what you need to know. National emergencies are not meant to last forever, obviously, and they end up costing taxpayers trillions upon trillions of dollars to implement. According to DOGE, the 40-something active emergency declarations have cost taxpayers more than $14 trillion to date and still counting. Now, this is coming from Freedom Caucus member Paul Gosar, who wrote the foreword to Preserving Liberty. As Congress looks to find savings to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill, now is the perfect time for Congress to review each of these emergency declarations and determine if they are still warranted today. For starters, it's the law. Section 202 of the National Emergencies Act mandates that Congress must debate and vote to terminate a national emergency no later than 6 months after it has been declared and within every 6 months after that. Yet Congress never does it. So you have national emergencies from hurricanes or from whatever, from the 70s and 80s that are still on the books. They were supposed to be eliminated 6 months after the quote-unquote emergency happened, and there's 40 of them still on the books. Unbelievable. If the emergency declarations are no longer warranted, Congress should vote to terminate them immediately. In fact, I am the only member of Congress ever to have legislation to terminate a national emergency signed into law. 2 years ago, this month to be exact, Joe Biden signed my bill terminating the COVID-19 National Emergency Declaration, halting trillions of dollars of wasteful spending that was no longer warranted. Ever wonder how much taxpayer money was spent on the COVID-19 pandemic? $6.4 trillion. That's right. And a majority of that, believe it or not, was all waste and fraud. Trillion with a T. Here's the thing. Congress and the American people have no idea how much of that $6.4 trillion was actually spent. Because despite the law requiring that Joe Biden must report national emergency spending to Congress 90 days after the termination of the emergency declaration, he never did. 2 years have passed since my bill ended the COVID-19 national emergency was signed into law by Joe Biden, yet Congress has no clue where all of that money was allocated or spent at all. If DOGE has taught us anything, and I have a hunch that billions of COVID-19 dollars are unspent, it's time for Congress to demand all the receipts of unspent money set aside for the COVID-19 national emergency, and yes, the other 40 active national emergencies. Then Congress needs to claw back those unspent dollars and put them towards paying for President Trump's budget resolution. Gather the receipts, claw back the unspent money, and I bet Congress can easily find the savings and perhaps make even deeper reductions in wasteful spending. God bless Congressman Paul Gosar, which is why I chose him to write the foreword to my book. He is a brilliant, brilliant man. I know him personally. I've met him numerous times. We've had numerous conversations. He is a really smart guy. And there's an example of how smart he is. I did not know that there were 40 active emergency declarations still on the books from the 1970s. I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. And honestly, I might look into that a little bit more and do another show based on my findings. Now, this is troublesome. This is troublesome really for all of Europe. I mean, we see it in Germany. We see it in the UK. We see it in France. We see the explosion of Muslim populations inside these countries. We see the native people in these countries not having as many children. You need a birth replacement rate of a minimum of 1.8% for the next generation to replace the one that you just lost. These countries are running 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, maybe 1.4. So they are considerably behind where you need to be to replace yourselves. So what are they doing? Open borders. Come on in. Come on in. Take our resources. Take what you need. What's that? You want your own laws in certain areas and you want to call them no-go zones? Sure, no problem. We'll look the other way. Well, guess what happens? Eventually, these people outbreed you. They don't have to bomb you. They don't have to kill you. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is continue to have children. Because guess what? When these people come into these countries, they're running 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8. Between 2.2 and 2.8. That's how many more children that they are bringing into the world in these countries. So you have an imbalance of native-born folks in these European nations. And sadly, Sweden is one of the worst. Okay? Sweden's civilizational shift, the number of mosques has surged 4,200% in only 25 years. That's right, since the year 2000. Unbelievable. Listen to this report, okay? Once a land shaped by Viking lore and later defined by its austere Protestant ethos, Sweden is now undergoing a dramatic cultural shift, with the number of mosques soaring by 4,200% in less than 25 years, a transformation few could have even imagined just a generation ago. It's worth noting that the definition of what constitutes a mosque remains unclear. However, when you look at the news reports from a company called Samnite, the staggering rise of Muslim houses of worship in Sweden reflects not only shifting religious dynamics, but also significant demographic changes. Again, open borders, no-go zones, right? Liberals not having children in these countries and bringing people in that don't believe in, your country's founding documents and principles and values. They have their own from the country they came from, and now all of a sudden they want to make their country now your country, their country again. And that's why we cannot have unfettered immigration anywhere in the world, because you get this. So then it says, once a predominantly Lutheran nation, Sweden now sees fewer than half of its population identifying with the Swedish Lutheran Church. As churches close their doors and the native Swedish birth rate continues to plummet, Sweden has seen the number of mosques rise precipitously from just 7 mosques in all of Sweden in the year 2000 to over 300 now in 2025. In parallel with the surge in mosques, Sweden's Muslim population has exploded, with a new Pew Research projections indicating that it will pass 30% of the entire country's total population by 2050. The rapid construction of mosques has prompted concern and sparked debate. Of course, the communists and socialists in the country want more mosques, but the people that were born there, that have lived there, that have watched Sweden and the rest of these countries turn into no-go zones, turn into these dangerous rape cultures, let's call them what they are beside themselves. And they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something. And I don't know if you can find, a Gerhard Wilder like there is in the Netherlands, or if you can find a President Trump type that's going to be tough on immigration, or if you can find, so many of these other more populist types of leaders. That's what it's going to take. You're going to need, an AfD party in Germany. You're going to need these hardliners to come in and stop this. Because if you don't, you're gone. You're gone in less than, 10, 15 years. It will be unlivable, okay? That doesn't make me a xenophobe or an Islamophobe. It makes me a truthful person that says, when you allow immigration to go unfettered, unchecked, and unbalanced, let's call it what it is, these are the results you're going to get. So it needs to be stopped. But it's one thing to also bring it to people's attention, because a lot of people don't know it. I'm sure Iris understands. She's probably living through it, the poor thing. Okay, let's move on. So Pam Bondi is now going to get a 40-year prison sentence for whatever this fruitcake is from New Mexico. This 40-year-old, probably homeless dude with lipstick on. Anyway, he firebombed not just a Tesla dealership, but also the GOP headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was thinking, and I'm looking at this, and I'm saying to myself, okay, all of the terrorism, all the domestic terrorism that we're seeing is coming from the left, 100%. firebombing the governor's mansion, right? Total leftist, like I talked about yesterday. This fruitcake, total leftist. All the people that they're arresting for these Tesla takedowns, they're all violent criminals and they're all on the left. So perhaps we ought to go through their social media, and maybe this is something that Bongino could do. Maybe he could hire 4 or 5 people and say, hey guys, here's what I want you to do. All of these people on the left that are causing all these problems, of course we're going to arrest them and put them in jail, but I want you to go through all their social media and anything that they liked, anything that they shared, anything that they posted that was anti-Elon Musk or anti-President Trump and spoke of violence that came from ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, whoever it was and wherever it came from, that person who was talking about violence, guess what? They need to be charged with incitement to violence. Because if you are speaking about causing violence and death and assassination and mayhem and all these sick things that they've been talking about, that's not free speech, okay? It's not free speech. It's incitement to violence. And perhaps if the FBI and the Department of Justice really want to stop these criminals and stop all this craziness going on, perhaps if you start indicting and arresting the people that they are supporting and getting their ideas from. That's right. Liking it, posting it, and sharing it. If it's coming from the left-wing media, they ought to be held somewhat accountable. No one is saying that, okay? No one. I am. Now, one more thing. The other day, I talked about Harry Enton and the fact that the less educated in our college indoctrination centers people are, the more likely they're going to love America, they're going to be MAGA, they're going to be America first, they're going to be for limited government, they're going to be for the Second Amendment, they're going to be for freedom and liberty and prosperity, right? Well, now we're finding out that it is truly President Trump's party, and not only is it President Trump's party, but it's moving in the direction for the whole country, okay? Polling is showing a growing number of not just Republicans or Republican identifying independents are identifying with the MAGA movement. This is awesome because it shows that the old guard establishment rhinos are dead. They are at the ash heap of history. The Lincoln Republicans, the National Review, all those idiots out there, they don't matter. They don't count. The American people are embracing America First principles and values, and of course President Trump and the MAGA movement. Now, how do we know? Right here. So let's see. In January of 2024, so a little more than a year ago, 20% of voters identified as MAGA. In October and November, right around the election of 2024, that number went up to 29%. Now that he has won the presidency, and we are now in 2025, almost close to halfway through it, right? At least a quarter through it now. And that number has gone all the way up to 36%, okay? And that's not just all Republicans, that's independents as well. So what's happening is that they are seeing that the MAGA movement is not, number one, not going anywhere, but more importantly, that it means workers, it means, the working class, it means America first, it means nationalism, which is not a dirty word, it means protectionism, which again is not a dirty word. And so what we're finding is that the more people get to experience America First values and principles, the more people are going to embrace President Trump and the MAGA movement. Let's just hope and pray it's a whole bunch before these midterms. Before I go, I was going to sign off real quick. I'm putting a lot of these videos up. You probably saw a lot of the interviews that I did today, the best ofs. They're now up tomorrow and tonight. I'm probably going to start doing the investigative shows as well. and the website will be gone in about probably 3 days. So I'm going to migrate those people that haven't signed up yet on Substack over. Now, if there's any duplicates or if there's any double charges, I put in requests to the financial arm, and they both use the same financial arm. So hopefully there's not going to be an issue. If it is, we'll figure it out. But I don't think there will be, because I think they understand that the people that were on the website are now coming over to the Substack. Okay? Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.